It's bridge, it's freaking bridge. There was a PED scandal in a slow card game mostly played by grannies. That's the shocking revelation. So if you were baited by my abhorrent skills at making thumbnails, or the title, you can now leave. But if you stay, we can dive deeper into the whole thing and look at it from angles you might not expect. First, the basic facts. On September 29, 2018, the #1 contract bridge player in the world, Geir Helgemo, underwent drug testing as a part of a World Bridge Series event. His sample turned out to contain 2 substances banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency, to which I will only refer as WADA from now on. Helgemo got popped for synthetic testosterone and clomiphene, a drug known to help testosterone secretion. The card player was then stripped of his medals and awards from 2018, banned for a year, and fined €3,659. Now, I looked into this, and it seems that throwing the table at your opponents is a frowned upon tactic in bridge. Given that testosterone is considered doping mostly because it helps build muscle, one can reasonably ask, why should getting a tee shot give you an advantage in bridge? The answer is that it most likely does not give you any advantage. But instead of a firm no, it's more like one of those high-pitched no's? Some studies suggest that supplementing testosterone could have positive effects on cognition, which is the area that you would want a drug to enhance if you want to become a bridge doper. Bridge is a game that attracts a large number of older people, and it's not uncommon for players to make their professional debut after their 50th birthday. For men, this is a time of natural decline in production of testosterone. As you probably are aware, if you watch a lot of nighttime TV and have seen adverts trying to scare people about so-called low T. The opinion of actual experts, however, is that artificially supplementing testosterone can potentially do more harm than good and should be approached cautiously. Helgemo was 50 in 2019 when he was banned for his adverse analytical finding, so it's likely that his doping had more to do with fear of aging rather than attempting to cheat. Not that Helgemo has any issues with cheating, given that he was punished in 2008 for submitting false scores and later on spent time in Norwegian jail for tax fraud. But should he really be considered a cheat for his testosterone use? Well, if bridge wants to be taken seriously as a sport, there is currently no wiggle room in that. It might seem bizarre to you, but bridge officials would like to see their card game played at the Olympics one day. And for that dream to come true, they must submit to the WADA rules regarding doping. As of now, the relationship between the World Bridge Federation and International Olympic Committee seems a tad abusive. There seems to be no movement towards the Olympic representation of bridge, but at the same time, the often elderly players are subject to rigorous drug testing that could get them banned for meds that they legitimately need. Aha, but it's not that simple. Well, actually, it's really simple. If you don't want your meds to get you in trouble, all you have to do is to fill out a form for a therapeutic use exemption, and then you are all set. If you don't fill out your papers properly, you can end up like Helgemo or the other bridge players that got in trouble for doping. Such as the Indian player Arvind Vaidya, who received a 2-year ban for using a diuretic that athletes often use to mask other doping substances. In his case though, it was most likely a part of treatment for high blood pressure. Another high-profile case is the Icelandic bridge player, deep breath, Dísa Eysteinsdóttir, whose silver medal from the 2002 World Championships got stripped because she refused to be drug tested. She did not have a therapeutic use exemption for her back pain medication, and instead of getting popped, she simply shooed the testers away. So, what you have to do to play bridge on a serious international level if you are taking meds is to have a doctor's note. That does not sound that bad, does it? Especially when you consider that the Olympic dream is not as far-fetched as you might think. Since 2018, contract bridge, along with chess, esports and other mind sports, has been part of Asian Games, which is essentially the Asian-only version of Olympics. On the other hand, I do find WADA way too rigid in their ways. Doping for mind sport is a very understudied area. Research suggests that the most widely used performance enhancer in bridge, chess, and other such thinky endeavors is simply caffeine, which is not prohibited by WADA, presumably because no one likes a cranky athlete in the morning. WADA does ban stimulants, such as Ritalin and modafinil, known to provide at least some measurable advantage in mind sports. Not because they actually make you smarter, but because they allow your mind to stay sharp for longer. If you are not someone that needs these drugs, for example to counter symptoms of ADHD, there exists a danger of abuse that can lead to severe medical issues. This is why it makes sense to focus anti-doping control in mind sports on these substances, and maybe establish a prohibited caffeine level. Other than that, and illegal drugs, I don't see a reason to harshly punish bridge players for forgetting to fill out a form about medications that cannot improve their performance. Plus, cheating is kind of a big part of bridge anyways. I might have given a small heart attack to any actual bridge player watching, and for that I apologize. Yes, bridge is bound by an ironclad code of ethics that prohibits cheating. But if your game involves illegal moves with established names, such as the Alcatraz coup, coffee housing, or the Chicago Convention, it kinda gives off mixed signals. How do you actually cheat at bridge? If you are looking for an in-depth explanation of bridge deception, then you are at the wrong saloon, partner. I attempted to teach myself contract bridge for this video, but was rather unsuccessful. That being said, you don't have to be an expert at the game to understand the basic concept of a secret code. Which is what most of bridge cheating boils down to. Bridge is a game where two teams of two players each attempt to outsmart each other, by taking as many tricks as possible. Don't get too excited. The tricks are foursomes, again, calm down, of cards that players put on the table based on their suits. If you ever got really bored and played Hearts on your Windows computer, it's the same idea. Players cannot share information about their cards, so to gain an illegal advantage, some teams devise a system of signs to convey what they have and what should their partner play. The history of bridge is full of inventive cheaters. And it really tells you something about its main demographic when you learn that a lot of bridge cheating involves codes based on certain ways of positioning a cigarette in your mouth. Players have also been known to play footsie with their partner or cough to signal their moves. And that's on top of more traditional card cheating by illicit shuffling of the deck or marking cards. In the modern era, new digital means of cheating have been opened to players. This became a big problem during COVID, when players had to move their games to their laptops and phones. Some cheaters, such as Sylvia Shi, were found to be self-kibitzing, which is a term for playing and spectating a game at the same time. A clear violation, given that it gives you perfect information, in a game based on a lack of information. Thus, if bridge wants to establish itself as an Olympic sport, the main issue is not testosterone shots or even Adderall, but a reliable way to analyze people's suspicious behavior. So why do I think Geir Helgemo's T-pop is the weirdest doping scandal ever? Because physical doping in bridge makes almost no sense, and the sport has a much bigger problem with the traditional ways of cheating. However, if you want weird, the world of doping is an unending source of material. As soon as professional spectator sport became a thing, athletes attempted to gain advantage by doing some horrendous shit to their bodies. The favorite substance for a very long time were testicles. You heard that right. And in a way it makes sense. Testes produce testosterone, which we have already established as effective physical doping. Sadly, gargling balls is not an effective way of ingesting testosterone. That's why in the 19th and early 20th century, many athletes chose to rather inject themselves with a testicular extract, usually obtained from dogs and guinea pigs. Eventually this would lead to use of anabolic steroids that actually do have the desired effect, but for a long time it was all crushed up balls. Other favorites for early dopers include strychnine, usually known as a rat poison, coca leaves, or simply booze. As you can imagine, outside of a strong placebo effect, many of these substances probably hindered the performance rather than enhance it. In time, dopers got better at the enhancement part, but safety not so much. I am a huge cycling fan, and you will be subjected to a cycling video on this channel at some point. I do enjoy the sport despite the rich history of doping, but man, some of the stories are wild. The cycling doping method du jour, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, was blood doping. Famously, Lance Armstrong and his team US Postal had faked a bus breaking down during the 2004 Tour de France, and used it as an excuse to give all the riders a transfusion of their own blood. This boosts the number of red blood cells and allows blood to carry more oxygen, thus enabling your body to work harder for a longer time. What are the dangers of blood doping? Well, for starters, you could inject yourself with improperly stored blood that has gone bad. This happened to the cyclist Ricardo Rico, who attempted a homemade transfusion in front of his girlfriend, leading to sepsis and kidney failure. Using not just blood, but also EPO, can turn up the production of red blood cells to the point where your blood can legitimately be described as a sludge. That is great for going uphill on a bike for a very long time, not so great when you are not currently performing and have a low heart rate. An often repeated story about the EPO era is that cyclists would measure their heart rate during sleep, and when it got dangerously low, a machine attached to their wrists would wake them up so that they could immediately hop on a trainer and get their blood moving. Without it, the blood sludge would clot and kill them. So that's fun. But even more fun is being alive and competing on merit, whether in bridge, cycling, or any other endeavor. WADA might not catch everybody, and they really need to look into more specific measures for mind sports, but overall their efforts can save both competition and lives. Be dope, don't dope. And thank you so much for watching my 7th YouTube video. This one was a spur of the moment thing, so it's not as focused as some of the other ones, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you have a crazy doping story and what is your own secret to high performance. Like if you liked the video, and if you didn't like it, the time of our reckoning shall come. Tape out.